Keep up to date everywhere. News Talk 820 WBAP.
In the WBAP newsroom.
Hey, folks, back in 2015, Chuck Schumer had suggested a pause in the refugee program from Syria. Oh, yes, The Hill was reporting back then. Oddly enough, let's see, hold on. Senator Charles Schumer, New York, third-ranking member of the Senate Democrat leadership, on Tuesday said it may be necessary to halt resettlement of Syrian refugees in the United States. That was late in 2015. Chuck Schumer was not crying when he made those comments. He was not shedding any tears. This is all naked politics, folks. All of it. All the protests, all of the SAG reaction, all of it. The good news is the vast majority of Americans seeing this playing out on their television screens, seeing the biased coverage of this, they're rightly shaking their heads and knowing exactly where it's coming from. Left-wing politics. And that includes the so-called news coverage. Let me talk about the legal aspects of all of this with our next guest, Byron Henry. He's an appellate law expert with the law firm Scheef & Stone. L.L.P. in North Texas, right here in Dallas-Fort Worth area. Mr. Henry, welcome to the Chris Salcedo Show.
Great to be with you, Chris.
All right. Some judges weighed in over the weekend on Trump's new guidelines from 7 countries. By the way, we have to remind everybody, 7 countries outlined by the Obama administration and by the Congress. And Trump's folks said, hey, we may have to refine this list, but we're just going with the most expedient list that we have, which was vetted by the prior administration and members of Congress. So now 3 judges, the first one in New York and then a couple others followed after that, weighed in. And many liberals hit Facebook saying these judges slapped down Trump's restrictions. Is that what happened?
No, the judges did not strike down the restrictions. What the judges said was, with respect to the people that were either in transit or already here that had been vetted and received visas or permission to enter the country, the judges would stay the orders effect of sending them back to their country of origin until the court could have a full hearing on the merits, meaning, which is not unusual in a temporary restraining order or an emergency equitable relief type situation, is once they get sent back, it's too late to help them if they win. So what the court did was say, you can't send them back until I have a hearing. As far as I can tell at this point, it is not otherwise upset the 90-day and 120-day pause that was hit on these programs for the administration to review them and come up with this administration's policy with respect to immigration and refugees, as opposed to following the Obama administration's prior policies and positions with respect to that. So I don't think anything's been struck down. What's happened is courts have issued a stay on returning people, and there's also a court that issued an order requiring these people to be given access to attorneys, which I don't think is that controversial or shouldn't be that controversial, that they have access to lawyers. So I think that's the extent of it that we know now. We'll know more when a full hearing on the merits is convened, but that doesn't affect the overall application of halting immigration or visas or extreme vetting for persons trying to come to this country from those 7 countries on the list.
So what we're talking about in actuality, folks, is tens of thousands of individuals who came into the United States without a problem, and between 100 and 300 who may have been already here or in transit. These are the individuals who were affected. Less than 1% of those entering the country over the weekend. So, and they're very specific, and individuals who may or may not have a case to be here in the United States, and they're going to be able to present their findings. So in your view, because this has been thrown out a lot by Elizabeth Warren, who is a kook, and Senator Chuck Schumer, to a lesser degree a kook, but still a kook, is there anything that smacks by your reading of this, what Trump has done, as unconstitutional?
Well, first, Chris, the Constitution doesn't give anyone the right to come to this country that's not a citizen. Visitor, vacationing, tourist, work visas, that is all controlled by the plenary authority of the Congress of the United States. So
I don't want to gloss over that point. I really want to, because Mayor Mike Rawlings, who needs an education on this kind of stuff, and a lot of Democrats within the sound of our voice, Byron, this is something that's rather elementary for most common sense Americans, but Democrats either forget or never learn this. And so I want to say that one more time just to give a little emphasis, and I'll let you go on. Folks from around the globe do not have an inherited right to come to the United States whenever the hell they want. We have the right to say who comes in and who does not. Mr. Henry, will you continue, sir?
That's right, and Congress has that plenary authority. So ultimately the last say on this will be Congress if they decide to adjust the refugee program or whatnot. But Congress has delegated to the president tremendous, and the Department of Homeland Security, tremendous authority to implement the law. So as a conservative and as a structural conservative, I'm very interested in making sure, as I was with President Obama, that President Trump does not make laws. He enforces the law and implements the law as Congress is seeing fit. All this is, from what I can tell so far, is a pause button on the number of refugees and or immigrants coming to this country from 7 clearly identified countries that were identified in prior administrations as specific areas of concern or countries of concern with respect to terrorism. So, and if you look at the numbers, what President Trump is proposing, by the way, with respect to immigrants and H-1B visas and work visas and green cards and refugees, it's about the same average number. Besides 1 year there was a spike in President Obama's administration. It's about the same number, about 50 to 60,000 going back to President Bush's administration. So over the last 8, 10, 12 years, the average number has been between 50 and 60,000 approximately, and President Trump is proposing 50,000 on the refugee program. So it's not like he is somehow cutting off access to refugees, a country who has some of the most liberal immigration laws in the entire country. I mean, try to immigrate to another country, and then you'll see what immigration law and how they're enforced in other countries. But in this country, we're very liberal with respect to the way we treat people who want to come here to work and be productive citizens. President Trump is just taking a break from the prior administration's policy to review this, and he will implement his own immigration policy through the Department of Homeland Security once this review is completed. Well,
Counselor, I'm gonna reverse roles. I'm gonna put you on the stand and just ask you a very simple question, and please answer to the best of your recollection. Byron Henry, of course, is our guest. He is with the law firm Scheef and Stone right here in North Texas in Dallas. When Barack, as you clearly mentioned in your testimony here on the Chris Salcedo show, as you clearly mentioned, these guidelines were laid down by prior administrations, in particular the Obama administration. Do you recall, sir, Mayor Mike Rawlings making a run out to DFW Airport to pose with individuals affected during Barack Obama's administration? Or can you recall Chuck Schumer breaking down in tears when President Obama had done something with these 7 countries?
No. In fact, there was a little bit of a different take on it whenever President Obama actually deported, at least at one point in his administration, had deported more individuals than George W. Bush's administration, which was rarely reported, by the way. They were targeted deportations, but the media didn't seem to believe that it was against our American heritage and our values to deport people that shouldn't be here when President Obama was doing so.
And you know what? To bring that up as well, when the wet foot, dry foot policy was repealed by President Obama, Chuck Schumer didn't tear up, and Mayor Mike Rawlings didn't run to the Cuban community to get his photograph taken to show his solidarity with those fleeing Castro's island paradise. Byron Henry, everybody, an appellate law expert with law firm Scheef and Stone, right here in Dallas, Fort Worth. Sir, I appreciate the call here on the Chris Salcedo show and the expertise as always.
Anytime, Chris.
All right, more to come, folks. Either side of the break.